We tend, at this stage in our civilization, not to embrace that, but to be embarrassed, even shamed by it, and we look away. We find euphemisms, and even the Defense Department makes that, you know, they get nervous about that. And we make heroes of a young man, a fighter pilot who ejects and wanders around on the ground and is finally picked up. He's a very decent young man. I'm not I'm not in any way insulting him, but he becomes a hero, whereas the fighter pilot who gets up close to an enemy fighter, blows it up, makes widow of the enemy's wife and orphans of his sons. You know, we're embarrassed by that. And one of the things I've tried to do, absurd as it is, and why it would be a mission, is what I'm saying is, have you hugged your killer today? If he kills in your name and for you, right, and if you benefit, I don't care how embarrassed you are, shake his hand and hug him. And that's very important to me, and I don't like the sort of snooty, particularly in elite liberal circles where we look away from it. I recently saw this book, Lone Survivor, is very powerful, and but he's very conservative. He's a SEAL. You know, his view of the world is black and white, and he doesn't like well, I don't want to get into politics. Okay. Forget that.
Why do you think that the lone assassin or the paid assassin has come on very strong as a thriller hero? You know, you're looking at Barry Eisler and his John Rain character. Jack Reacher is not by any means an assassin, but he can kill if he has to, although actually in one of his books he goes after a sniper. But there's a sort of return of that kind of lone hero who owes his allegiance either only to himself or whatever he quixotically embraces, or he owes his allegiance to the client. I mean, that's the kind of whole private eye definition, is the private eye is the guy outside law enforcement working for the client.
Well, one thing is he's a proactive person. He is the one who makes the plot move with his energy and his commitment. So for writers, that's, you know, you always will choose a proactor as opposed to a reactor as your hero. And secondly, being that he somehow lends himself, I think, to more charisma. I think he tends to be, without anyone meaning, he tends to be more charismatic, more visible, more powerful dramatically than a man who's less liberated. I mean, in a sense, he's the last free man.
But of course, you have a problem then as a novelist, which is that, you know, if you've got him set up to be that way, so he can basically walk into the sunset after every book. At the same time, he does need some sort of relationships or conflicts, and then he has to get more connected. So you've got that dynamic all the time.
I can't speak for these other guys that you mentioned, but I can say that it is important to me to give him, I don't like sort of the man from nowhere, and I've gone to great pains to give him a family, a tradition, a sense of complicated relationships, to give him children, to give him, a wife, to give him, to sort of account for him as a total human being. He's not just a weapon.
Well, absolutely true. That's one of the great things about the 47 Samurai is you put both the swaggers now in a context, which I think works extremely well. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to mention you've got two collections of your films. One is, film criticism. One is now playing at the Valencia, and I forgot to mention that you are a Pulitzer Prize winner, in fact, for your film criticism, which we've talked about before.
You know, if at least one of these folks should buy this book, is because of this show, he will be the 7th person in America to purchase it, and I think that's pretty damn interesting.
Well, it is. And what was your other book?
The other one was called Violent Screen. This is the Violent Screen is from the Sun, and now playing at the Valencia is from the Post.
Got it.
So, you know, if you're fascinated, I know I'm fascinating by me. There is me on each newspaper.
Well, so you've got generational collections, so to speak. But I think, it's really wonderful that you've contributed, I think, so much to, in film and in book, to to the intellectual life of this
Well,
country.
it's nice of you
Lousy
to say
student
that.
though you may be or
I
have
don't
been.
say, I would never use the word contribute. I mean, I'm just sort of trying to keep my nose out of water and
Well,
stay employed. So
I think there's a lot more than,
thank you very much,
you
Barbara.
have a sort of self-abnegation here, which I think is perhaps a little unfair to yourself.
Well, maybe
but
so.
anyway, so I adore you, so maybe
Thank you.
that'll make up for it.
That's right.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming,
you, Barbara.
Stephen, and I thank all of you for joining us today. That was fun.
Good,
Thank
it was
you.
fun.
See, it went so fast,
Yeah.
we ran out of time.
Yeah.
Always.